Marlene, what are some of your more memorable moments of your life as it pertains to ANCSA?
Well, those memories.
Not the really memorable ones.
Those that I can share with you, seeing as I have my grandkids in the audience here.
We could send them out.
Some of the most important things, I think, was we didn't get all we wanted in the land claims. And I know over the years I've had other of our shareholders and say, why did you guys settle for that? Why did you do that? And we had no choice. If we did not settle then, we would not have gotten what we got. In that last year of 1971, we thought we had worked out an agreement and from all of the regions, and we would meet at the Capitol Hill Hotel. It's not there anymore. Every evening, and discuss and share what we had done with the different groups that we met with and where we were going. And Representative Nick Begich was a strong supporter of ours, as was Senator Mike Gravel. And this one evening we thought we were all set. We were happy, and Mike Gravel came to us, to the leadership, and told the leaders, all of us there, that the state of Alaska and the leadership in the Congress and the Department of Interior had come to an agreement, and we had just lost several million acres. We were really devastated what we were going to do. We got a hold of Scoop Jackson, Senator Henry Jackson's office, because he was one of the senators that led the fight for us. He really did help, and we got a hold of his staff, and they told us he was on a military plane on the way to Chicago. They were able to get a hold of him on that plane. He turned the plane around and came back to D.C. And the next day, we were back to where we were the day before, with the land included that we had negotiated for us. So if it wasn't for Scoop Jackson and Mike Gravel, we would have probably got sold down the river.
And there were a lot of leaders from the U.S. government that passed through that, you wouldn't ordinarily see in a village. I mean, I remember seeing Scoop Jackson here, and name some others.
Scoop Jackson is up to Alaska several times. Lloyd Meads was up.
Udall's, maybe?
Udall was up several times. Aspinall from Hawaii.
Inouye.
Yes, Senator Inouye. We had a lot of friends there, but we certainly didn't have a majority. And I have to thank the Black Caucus also that was there. I was on assignment to meet with the group at the Black Caucus at one time, and they supported us. So, at first they really weren't going to support us until we went down to all of the leadership. I mean, and we had some great leaders, as Brenda has mentioned here, some of them, and most of them are all gone now. But, I mean, who can say no to Eddie Hoffman, So, I mean, when he, spoke up, we had some leaders from all the regions that were great. And I want to say Don Wright did a wonderful job while he was the president and we were negotiating. He did a wonderful job. John Burbridge did a wonderful job. Tim Wallace.
Didn't somebody take out a second mortgage on their home to help cover expenses? I mean, didn't things like that?
Cecil Barnes, Nancy Barnes' father, Cecil Barnes. did that from Cordova.
Yeah, and what I'd heard is that he got this mortgage on his own home so he could take his city council members down to Washington, D.C. to testify and lobby on the land claims.
Wow.
His own money, his own house.
In June of 1970, we had our AFN board meeting up there, and all the AFN board members from throughout the state, there were 36 of us, went up for a 2-day board meeting, and I brought pictures to show to Brenda and the rest of them, but you know, that was a long time ago. But it was in June, and the festival, the whale festival, the Nalokataq was there, and Brenda was so gracious in making sure that everything went fine, and she enlisted all of her sisters and mother, and it was just a whole community affair that welcomed us. And so earlier that I was interested in the reservation status, fee simple versus the in-trust status, and Unalakleet was reserve, and we had many reserves in Alaska, and we needed to have that protection for, we need to have the choice, fee simple, in trust. Okay, so Don Wright's daughter, Darlene, and I worked together as a team we'll go garner and find out what's with these reserves. So in the meantime, we decided that we should get them invited. So we got Lummi Indians. There was Sam Kagi, and we had from Spokane, we had Yakima Indians, Bob Jim, he was the chief. And then we had from the Indian Health Service, Dr. DeMontenay and his folks from the Rocky Boy reservations to go up to Barrow, so that they would have the forum to talk to us about what their status was, and the board would make its decision which way the board would move. So Darlene and I felt really good about that we at least have the opportunity, they could see what our farthest north community is, and then they can talk to us about how their lives were impacted, because they had a different type of contact with the federal government in their tribal affairs and the way they were treated, and so we did not want to be treated like they were treated, because you know, this is the last frontier. So they had I've got pictures of all those Indians being tossed up on a blanket toss, you know. So, and you know, it went fast, but it was wonderful. The community of Barrow did the most outstanding job, and Brenda and her family thanked them very much. So the chiefs had their chance. So anyway, so here we are in D.C. It's time, you know, we're looking for money, we're looking for help. Then National Tribal Chairmen's Association graciously helped us with our office. We had a little office where Don Rice slept in the back, and we used the suite part, you know, it had a little table, and we had a typewriter, and that all the supplies came from the National Tribal Chairmen's Association. And so myself, I was a secretary, so I took that very seriously. I was very young, you know, and my father was a sergeant at arms on the AFN board, so here, you know, he assigned me. I was always his scribe for the Unalakleet Council when they needed help, because I can get the stuff done quick, highly efficient, you know. And when I was in Mount Edgecombe at the high school, when I took typing classes, my instructor told me, he says, "Francis, one thing I'll tell you right now, you'll never get a job as a secretary." I couldn't, you know, beat 45 words per minute. So anyway, here I am, you know, a few years later and going at it, but very strong believer, very strong. We have to utilize all of our talents. Everybody brought something to the table. So anyway, here comes Bob Jim. He got invited they were having National Chairman's Convention there in D.C., and so Don Wright, being a member representing Alaska, invited them to come meet with the board again. So that was the time that, okay, we can do it. We can loan the AFN for lobbying. And Brenda always tells this story. somehow or another, it just seemed like it went through in one ear and out the other to me. But, you know, you got to have, when you get a loan, what's the collateral? What do you got? Well, anyway, it kept coming to me that, you know, Brenda Itta, Francis Degnan, and then there was Mary Jane Fate, Laura Burt. Those are collateral for the loan. I said, my God, you know, but it didn't mean anything to me because, you know, those are Indian chiefs, and so they're all fine people, and everybody's working together. Okay, fine, okay. So when it came time, Bob Jim, I didn't bring the beads I got from him. He gave me this long, and they were dentalia, and then an elk's tooth. He says, anytime you need help, and he said, it doesn't make any difference where you're at, you wear this. Okay, and I wore it to every hearing we went to, every meeting relating to, you know, AFN. I wore it all these years, every single year. And when I should have been wearing it, now I don't have it. But he's here in my heart. Okay, so when it came down to the end of it, they really, really believed in our struggle. They were our brothers, our sisters, and they always came to our meeting. He came with his tribal council. He brought his daughter along, and there was an air of just graciousness, respect, caring. I said there was no different than us, but their thing is they were looking for Mount Adams, needed help. They did get their Mount Adams, and that was a wonderful thing. So after the land claims, it always bothers me, you know, none of us had any money. We hired all these people, and then I had to testify in behalf of several people before a federal judge to say, yes, indeed, they did work for us, because the associations, the councils, the tribes didn't have any cash to pay those consultants, those attorneys, and those loans. So I was not on AFN after 1972, so I really don't know what happened. But my prayer is always this, that, you know, that it was done, and that I hope they get blessed manyfold, manyfold. But there were two that worked for Unalakleet personally, pro bono, that I think is Clifford Grow, and then shortly thereafter, it was Jack Hendrickson, John W. Hendrickson. He died a couple years ago, bless his soul. They did it pro bono. So there are many stories like that. I testified in behalf of Paul Dixon from ABCP. He was a consultant. I don't know whether or not their claims were settled. So we do have, I call it a burden. And I personally can't pay them other than my thanks.